So good morning to everyone in church and those watching online. And what a windy, slightly chilly autumn morning it is, but I was quite amazed that the leaves are still hanging on and they're really amazing golden yellows, oranges and reds. The glory of creation just outside the door. Today I'll be looking in depth at the gospel reading from Matthew, which talks about God and mammon, though by that we mean God and wealth or money. But to start, I'd like to think about one phrase that we heard in the reading that Anne read earlier from Thessalonians. In that passage, Paul calls the members of the early church children of the light. And children of light because we do not just live in the light, but we are defined by that light, by the light and grace of God. So to start us thinking this morning, I'd like to ask whether we think we are truly children of the light. Do we follow the ways of God, or do we consciously or unconsciously follow the ways of our world? And this is the main argument in the passage from Matthew, that if we are truly following the ways of God, then it follows that it should be difficult to also follow the ways of the world as defined by mammon or money. This point that you cannot serve two masters is also echoed in other passages elsewhere in the Bible, in both Luke 16 and James 4. But as we live in the world, I think we need to consider how we may best follow the ways of God, living in the light, and still be part of this world where wealth or money talks so loudly. To try to understand this, I turned to a book that Justin Welby wrote called Dethroning Mammon. Some of you may already know it, as I think it was set as a Lent book a few years ago. Justin Welby explains in his book that the economics of God are different. He contrasts the way in which the supply of money in the world is finite, but that God's love for us is infinite. God's love does not run out like money does. But the way that we respond in the world, he argues, should echo the second part of the Matthew passage about trusting God. He says, we are ourselves to be those who are generous, who trust that when we give away, more will come back. And he adds that life is not a process of exchange and equivalence, but of abundance and generosity. However, in part of his long different parts of the different arguments in the book, he does caution that we can only give that which we already have. For those that we do have resources, giving away gains everything. In other words, where our own circumstances give us the capacity to be generous, where we are the receivers of abundance, then we should give what we can. Abundance exists to be given freely and openly. So we can see in these quotes that he asks those of us with money to think hard about how we are making use of the money that we've been given. This is not to say that those who can give should give it all away, but rather that we should make good use of our money by using the money in ways that will build positive relationships, either with our families and friends, or those we do not know by means of donations to charity, or by donating to the church to ensure that the word of God can continue to be heard in our community into the future. When God is put first and money is put in its place, a different world can emerge. As Justin Welby puts it, when mammon is dethroned and Christ takes its place, we do not have cruelty, but love and grace. We do not have shortage, but abundance and human flourishing. We do not have deception, but we have truth. To have a think about this, let's turn to what you were handed when you came in. If you just quickly get out the chocolates or whatever you were given, and hold them out in front of you. If you look around in your pew or to the side, to the back, you can probably see that one or two of you may only have one or two chocolate coins or chocolates, but others will have more. And one or two lucky people have got whole bagfuls. And there's a fixed number of chocolates. And the way that they are divided up is completely uneven, which is how it is in our world. Some have little, some have a bit more, and others have a lot. If we were to do an exercise here and now to ensure a more even distribution between everybody, then we would ask each of you with a bit more to give some of those chocolates to those with a little. But we won't do that now. I'd like you, though, to think about how you felt when you were just given one chocolate coin or chocolate and then saw someone with a whole bag full. It's only human to ask ourselves questions, to wonder why some have more than we do. But the passage in Matthew reminds us to focus instead on what we ourselves have. We're asked to think of ourselves as stewards of our money and possessions. If we have little, then we should only spend it on ourselves or our families. There is nothing wrong with that if we have little. However, if we have more, then we should think about giving away with a glad heart, whether to those we know, friends and family, or those we don't know, perhaps by donating to charity, or to our church so it can continue to provide support to all in our community. But being human, sometimes we listen to that small, niggling voice inside us that says, I'll keep a bit more on one side in case I need it in the future. And if we have little, that will make sense. Though if we have a reasonable amount, then setting too much aside without a real purpose means we fail to make an impact in the world to help others. And we've also failed to trust that God will provide for us. Our eyes are no longer turned to the light, but are focused on the money itself. So, what should you do with the chocolates now? Well, I'd like you to think about how many chocolates you have and then decide how many you will keep and how many you will give away. This is completely your decision. All I'd ask is that you put any you don't want into the cardboard box by the exit on your way out. Though it would help me with the 10:45 service, which comes shortly afterwards, if some of you could leave a few chocolates, otherwise I'll have to drive down to Budgeon's. But the exercise is really just to make you think. How we individually react is important, as is how we define the amount that we feel is enough for us to live on comfortably. If you saw Treasurer Matt's comment in the email newsletter at the end of October, you will know that he asked us all to reflect on what we can do to give and support the work here at St Mary's. He explained that this is because over the past couple of years, we've started to use some of our savings to cover our costs, as those day-to-day costs, like for everybody, have increased. And as I sit on the PCC and also on the Finance and Governments Committee, I know that we are reaching a tipping point where we need to collectively think about what we can each do to protect the work the Church does for all who regularly attend and those in the community who need our support. At the moment, we are balancing at this tipping point, but any higher costs or any reduction in income, whether because we get less from the shop or we receive fewer donations, could make the situation more difficult. If that happened, as Matt said, we would have to cut back what we do. Now, I know that some of you will be thinking, but can't we get grants to help with some of this? And you'd be right. And I can assure you that the PCC is thinking of every option. However, the tricky part is that some of those grants do require the Church to commit to find a sizable amount, sometimes up to 30% of the money, before they will consider an application. So I'd like to ask you all to pray for the work that Matt and the PCC are doing, And in prayer, think if you're able to help in any way. But please know that the church is not asking any here who have limited money to give away money they need for themselves. We understand how difficult rising prices have been for many. But please also know that we do not want anyone to feel under pressure, as we should only give willingly and within our means. We're also aware that you may already be giving much to support family or friends or donating to charity. The call out is aimed at those of you who, after considering family and charity, may still have enough to be able to give a little bit extra, since all those little bits extra will help us to ensure that the church is able to continue to thrive and offer support to those that need it. As Justin Welby wrote, we are called to be good stewards of our money, and part of that is about discerning how we give and ensuring that we give with wisdom. So, as we conclude today, let us all agree to ask God in prayer to guide us to be the best stewards of the money and possessions that we have been given. May he help us consider what is enough for our needs and decide whether we are able to give more. We ask this in your name, Lord, since, as children of your light, we trust that in your love for us, you will continue to provide for all our needs. Amen.
Notices this week. A reminder that David Blackmore will be leading an Advent book group, which will happen on a Tuesday evening via Teams at 7:30. The book that they're going to be using is Waiting in Joyful Hope. It's one of our Advent recommendation books. Please get in touch with David or let me know if you would like to join us for that. And observant, you will have noticed our giving tree has arrived, everyone. So probably a gift of that to come along to this such a wonderful Advent Mass weekend is our wreath making morning. Action really, places are nearly gone. Book your place via event or let Julie know in the office. And we have received an invitation from St Anne's Church, who would like to invite all of us from St Mary's Church family to join them on Sunday the 3rd of December at 4 p.m. for an Advent reflection, the Voice of God. This is a simple service of Advent carols and readings with some quiet time in the midst of the hustle and bustle that will be approaching us. So please do come along to that Sunday the 3rd at 4 p.m. at St Anne's. Don't worry, last one now, okay everyone? Saturday the 9th of December at 2 p.m. is a date for your diary. Do not miss this. It's the next tea dance and always such a good fun afternoon. So that's Saturday the 9th of December at 2 p.m. So it's wonderful. Lots going on, isn't there, for our diaries?